at least some of you are as well. If you're into the support people on Patreon thing, I guess you can do that. Patreon.com/TMBH. If you're not into that, it's completely cool. Either way, I'm just glad you're here. And we'll pick it up talking more about how these Bibles work next time around. I'm Matt. It's 10-Minute Bible Hour. Catch you soon.
As president. We're a small business. We can't even pay rent. This is not right.
There's just so much chaos and so much disruption.
He is the president of chaos and disruption.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your response to this crisis?
I'd rate it a 10. I think we've done a great job.
When you can't sleep, no matter what you try, take drug-free Midnight any time of night. A good morning starts with Midnight. Try new Midnight gummies today.
People of YouTube, it is I, the Duke of the Dank, the Mayor of Meme Town, everyone's favorite YouTuber, Emperor Lemon. And today, in an unprecedented, unscripted commentary, we are going to discuss the fallout of the Leafy is Here YouTube geographic. So first and foremost, let me just say that I have been completely blown away by the support for this video. This video must have really titillated Montezon's fancy, because in less than 2 weeks it got over 1 million views. Now I've had a few videos get to 1 million views in the past, but this is the fastest by far it's ever happened. And all the comments, all the messages I got from this video have been overwhelmingly positive. People really seem to like how I put this video together. I mean, really, in the last 7 days, I've gained over 50,000 subscribers. And I've never really, ever had anything like this happen before in 8 years of making videos. So before I get into anything here, I have to first welcome all 50,000 of the new subscribers to the channel. Please feel free to make yourself at home, pour yourself a glass of Downward Spiral. If you subscribe to me for my editing capabilities, I regret to inform you that this video will not have any of those, just because I don't want to spend another 2 months working on a 40+ minute video. In honor of Leafy, this video will feature random gameplay in the background as I commentate over it with unrelated commentary. So now, without further ado, let's get into the discussion. So first of all, I kind of just want to address the background of this video. I want to answer why I made this video. Why Emp? Why is this video 51 minutes? Me YouTuber. Me no have attention span to watch 51-minute video. Why video must be 51 minute? Well, to tell you the truth, the video was originally going to be a lot shorter. I actually started writing the script for this video way back in November, after the very first episode of YouTube Geographic. However, any fans of the channel at that time will know that that was when I started my little mini crusade against YouTube, and I sort of put the script on the back burner. But originally, this video was probably going to be like every other generic "What happened to Leafy is here," and in hindsight, I'm glad it didn't turn out that way. My original inspiration to make the Leafy video came from just browsing on YouTube one day, and I looked at all the big commentary channels. I looked at H3H3, iDubbbz, Keemstar. I kind of just looked at all their stats and their subscribers just to see how much they had grown in the past year. And then I kind of remembered in the back of my head that Leafy was originally right there in the running with these guys, and he seemingly completely disappeared off the face of the earth. Now keep in mind, this was during a time before Leafy had actually stopped making videos, but I never actually heard a peep from him in the past year or so, and I was just kind of wondering what happened. I originally wanted to just explore the topic of Leafy's downfall and how he managed to sort of hit rock bottom in terms of growth. Yeah, but then after I put the script on the back burner, a lot of interesting things started happening. First of all, the Tower Dog leaks came out, which provided a whole new insight into why Leafy sort of just disappeared from my recommended feed. And that leak was, of course, about YouTube's covert censorship of certain commentary channels. And after that, I began to look at the stats. I began to look at the analytics of Leafy's channel a lot more closely. And that was when I started to notice a lot of really irregular patterns that could not be explained under normal circumstances. And considering the Tower Dog allegations, it began to make a lot more sense to me that YouTube was tampering with Leafy's numbers and suppressing him from being viewed by most of his audience. And about the same time, I made a lot of videos. I made a series of videos harshly criticizing YouTube and their decision making and their management. And something very interesting happened the following January, February, and March. Looking at my own analytics, I could tell that something was way off. I've been around long enough on this website where I kind of have an expectation of how certain videos will perform. And these videos I uploaded during this stretch, and you can go back and watch them. There's a chance that any of you who've been subscribed over the duration might not have even seen some of them, because I got tons of reports from fans saying that my videos weren't showing up in their recommended, and my videos weren't showing up in their subscriptions, and everything was getting instantly demonetized, even if it did not contain one shred of questionable content. They would still get instantly demonetized as I uploaded them. I remember making a Logan Paul rant about a week after the whole thing happened, and that video started off getting a ton of views, and then after about a day it got age restricted. And the official reason I got told for that was that they're age restricting anything that depicts an image of the thumbnail, which doesn't really make much sense, because I recall seeing a ton of other videos that use the image of the thumbnail and they weren't age restricted. So I got really paranoid around this time. I got paranoid that YouTube was sort of suppressing me. And of course now, obviously, in the light of my recent success with this video, that's clearly no longer the case. But still though, for a period of about 3 months, it just seemed like all the numbers on my channel were lower than they should have been. And that made me very concerned, and it made me very suspicious of YouTube. And when I first saw the Tower Dog leaks, I was a little bit skeptical. It just seemed awfully bizarre that YouTube would go after specific channels. At the time, it didn't really occur to me that they would even care about specific channels. But after that stretch of 3 months or so, where I felt like my account was targeted and suppressed by YouTube, I started looking into things a lot more. And that was about the time when I sort of renewed my interest in making the Leafy video. Because it began to dawn on me that, what if the same thing that allegedly happened to me also happened to Leafy, but 100 times worse? So after the Jimmy Kimmel video, I started researching and writing the Leafy Was Here script. And during my research, I began to unpack all these signs that supported the theory that YouTube suppressed Leafy's channel. And the more research I did, and the more evidence I found at this theory that YouTube suppressed Leafy's channel, the more I became sure that this was what happened to Leafy. And as I did more research, and as I dug deeper, I began to realize with confidence that Leafy got screwed. The dude got absolutely screwed over, and nobody really realizes it except for me. And you can go on YouTube right now and look at all the other What Happened to Leafy's Here videos. They're all kind of the same. They all cover the same sort of scope of events. But what I began to realize is that the story of Leafy goes so much deeper than kind of what's public knowledge and what's generally presented by the commentary community. Leafy's disappearance just goes so much deeper than what everyone thinks. So with this new burden of knowledge, I felt like it was sort of my responsibility to present the whole story and to present what I'm fairly certain is the truth of what actually happened to Leafy. So that's kind of why the video is 51 minutes long. It's because with the issue of Leafy is here, there's simply so much information to unpack, and I felt like I really needed to present that information adequately. There's simply too much of a story to tell to make the video any shorter. And thankfully people really appreciated that effort. Of course there were a few people commenting like, oh, 51 minutes, I'm not watching that. But I actually kind of turned it around on a lot of people. I saw some people commenting, oh, 51 minutes, that's too long. And then 51 minutes later, they leave a second comment saying, wow, that was actually pretty good. So for those of you guys who are patient, just like to stick around, watch the whole thing, I really appreciate it. And since this video got so much traction and created so much of a discussion, I felt like I was sort of obligated to follow up on it and respond to some unanswered questions that people might have had. So I took to Twitter and I asked my followers to post any questions they had about the Leafy video, and I got a ton of responses. I tried to narrow down what I'm covering to sort of a few general questions that a bunch of people were asking. So let's get into that. This person wonders what other types of YouTubers I think that the YouTube algorithm has tried to shut down. And this is a very interesting notion that I'm sure a lot of people inferred after I presented my theory about how YouTube censored Leafy's channel. If YouTube would go so far as to completely suppress Leafy's videos, what other type of censorship could they be doing? From what I've seen on YouTube, definitely a lot of political channels. They don't get very many views. Recently, gun channels. That was something that was actually reported on in the news, where YouTube is kind of suppressing gun content now in the wake of the recent school shooting spree in America. When answering this question, it's kind of hard to tell for sure, but there's certainly patterns that you can observe. Basically, anything YouTube lists in its demonetization guidelines, any channel related to those guidelines, have typically been shown to perform less well. I believe the YouTube censorship machine extends far and wide, but it covers a different extent depending on what kind of video it is. It's very interesting what you can observe out there if you keep your eyes open. Lots of people ask for my thoughts on what Leafy could have done to sort of redeem himself in the eyes of the general public. Well, personally, I think Leafy's downfall boils down to two very critical moments. The first one was the Tommy NC rant and subsequent backlash. I think that was the first real moment where a substantial number of people turned against Leafy. Before that, it was basically just smooth sailing for him, but that was sort of the first crack in his empire. I think if after the Tommy NC video, Leafy had just sort of stopped roasting individual people, he might very well still be around today. A lot of people commented on my Leafy video saying that they used to be subscribed to Leafy and they enjoyed his rants and his storytime videos, but they kind of lost interest once he's just started becoming primarily a roast channel. And honestly, I think if he had just gone back to that style of giving personal stories, personal anecdotes, he would have been fine. And he would still be quite popular today. But anyway, after the Tommy NC video, I think him deciding not to change up his style and just to continue with roasting random people on the internet, I think that was the point of no return for him. Because after that point, YouTube got involved. And once YouTube kind of sort of put the clamp on his channel, he could not really recover. Now, the second critical point for Leafy was the content cop response. So if the Tommy NC incident is sort of what caused Leafy's numbers to go down across the board, the content cop response is what caused him to sort of lose the respect of the majority of the commentary community. I think had Leafy just sort of owned up to the criticism instead of just responding to it negatively, like he just sort of did with any old YouTuber,